Hey guys, this is Faster U4 brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomax and Capital Cycles. If you're a cyclist and you want to go faster, then let's giddy up. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Faster U4 brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomax and Capital Cycles. Hey, bike racing on the weekends. The Wellington Masters Cycling Club graded road race, which was the first decent chunky. It went well. Let me tell you all about it. Let me also tell you about what I learned. Coaching tip of the week based on what came out of that race. We'll talk about what grinds my gears. And we're going to preview next week's race, which is a biggie. It's the Round 1 North Island Team Series. So this race yesterday was a very good warm-up race for next week because it was the same course. Miller's Circuit in Gladstone. Alright, went pretty well. I took the win, which was nice. Went on a big long solo breakaway. The biggest, my biggest ever actually. I think about that. So that was good. I'll tell you about what happened and how I did it, and the rest of the race and races, how it came out. So let's look at this. We had Wellington Masters graded road race, 87.9 kilometres around the Miller's Circuit in Gladstone. Cut that out in 2 hours and 21 minutes. 697 metres of climbing, and because it's the same lap, that's roughly 300 and whatever, 20 or 30 or something per lap. We had an average speed there, 37.4 k per hour, which, considering I was by myself for most of that, and had quite a bit of climbing in it. That was pretty good. Average power 294 watts for a effective power of 324. Quite high. Again, considering I was doing that mostly by myself, I'd call that an 8 or 9 out of 10 effort, really. Heart rate average 150 beats. Very normal. Certainly about my lactate 3. Just under perhaps for as an average. Maximum heart rate 172, so creeping up a little, which is good because normally as I get fresher and into better form, sort of find that max heart rate, assuming you have made somewhat of a maximal effort during the race, tends to start creeping up. I'll sort of notice, hopefully over the next 6 to 8 weeks, that maximum heart rate might come up by 1 beat. I might be knocking on the door of 180 beats in absolute peak form with a maximal effort. So that'll be interesting to see. I noticed that creeping up from high 160s now to low 170s over the last 6 weeks. That's happening. Average cadence 92, which was on the money for a good efficient zone for me. Training load 158, which is a pretty hard day in the saddle. So if we go and look at the data here, the way it started out was everyone together for the first lap pretty much. See who lined up in A grade. This is the results. We'll just go through who was there. We had me, Kieran Allwood, Mike Sim, Jonathan Leonard, Stephen O'Keefe, Steve Chapman, Richard Sutton, Steve Orchard, Jeff Saywell, Hobuke pulled out after 2 laps, and so did Lee Campbell. Now, so back to the data here. You can see we came through reasonably stochastic efforts there, but nothing major. First lap in a little bit. Only averaging 263 watts. The EP was 320, which is a little high, but that's because the effort was more stochastic. Now, if you're watching this, you'll see what happens here. If you're not watching and you're just only listening, you'll notice that the power delivery suddenly goes from this up and down to very much more just smooth, and so does the heart rate, and that's because of course I went and broke away. So let's talk about where that happened and why. Northern corner, look at that bad boy. The wind wasn't exactly how I thought it was going to be, but I knew that it was going to be somewhat of a cross to tailwind on that section, and it was like basically a northerly, I guess, northwesterly. And that corner, because it's a 90-degree corner, and also because the way the road sort of flattens out there, it's always a good place to attack. So I did, and you can see where the zoom along here in cycling analytics, the software we use at FitLab for coaching our riders. We get up to this point, maybe 500 meters before that corner, and look, boom, look at this attack. Short bit of power, nothing huge. You'd see my heart rate had just gone up a little bit there just before that because I almost got hit by a bus, which was exciting. Actually, on that, Hope Duke helpfully shouted that there was a bus about to decapitate me, which was very helpful, so thanks, Hope. I'm glad you shouted out. Alright, and to here, and on my wheel were Kieran Allwood and Jonathan Leonard. We swapped it out pretty well on this downwind-ish leg, coming south towards Miller's Circuit, and on this part of the climb, or Miller's Hill I should say, on this part of it is kind of a climb, it's a bit lumpy. You can see the power delivery there up to the bottom of Miller's Hill is a little more stochastic because I was doing quite a bit of work on the front, but the other guys were too, and on the lower sections of Miller's, the guys couldn't hold my wheel anymore, which was kind of a conundrum for me because we're not even halfway through the race, and I'm wondering if I really want to go away by myself for the rest of it or not. I guess I kind of didn't have much choice about that. I suggested to the guys that they might like to just hold the wheel, but that was not going to happen. And fair enough too, I have been in that situation myself plenty of times. They went back to the group, and you can see there, look at this power delivery from there. If I look at the average power from the point where I was by myself till the end, average power 307 with an EP of 318. So there's not much of a difference between the true average power and the EP, and that's because I was just tapping it out pretty much the whole time. So one of the reasons I kind of enjoy this breakaway style of riding lately is because I've got really familiar with the sort of level in terms of power I can hold in the drops in an aerodynamic-ish position, and that's really helpful to know. So you can hover kind of just under that point of feeling really fatigued and still tap it out pretty fast. Now you can see, even including the climbs there, I was averaging just over 37k an hour, and even though it was a bit windy, a bit crosswindish, a lot of the time I was sort of close to 40, 39 there on the south to north leg. So, and tapping out an average power 320, EP of 321 there. Just nice and consistent, a level that's maintainable is about my lactate 3, maybe just under. So it's sub-threshold. Then again, because you're in the drops instead of an open climbing position, your maximum sustainable power about 10% lower than it might be in that. So you want to account for that as well. So that sort of felt like a good level for me. And that was it. And sort of the frame of mind I have in a situation like that is kind of what happens. I've said this before, like, look, if the bunch wants to work to catch me, and that's their big objective, they can probably do that, assuming I don't have some giant lead relatively easily. But if they don't, or don't want to, or it's quite possible that I will cramp, or I will, or whoever's in the breakaway will have problems maintaining their intensity, then it's quite easily it could quite easily be that that person will get drawn back, and so the bunch thinks that and won't chase. So there's lots of things that go on. So it's kind of, point being, it's kind of out of your hands. So settle in for the pain train, and just do what you got to do your job. For me, it worked out pretty good, and I stayed away. So that's what I did for the rest of the race. So I ended up, 2 hours 21, 18 minutes, 18 seconds. So just over half a minute or whatever from the next place, Kieran Allwood, who obviously was feeling pretty strong after coming away with me and then breaking away from his companions at the end. Mike Sim, come back from Melby, about 10 seconds behind Kieran. Fourth place, Jonathan Leonard, big unit, good sprinter. Stephen O'Keefe coming in just a couple of seconds, a few seconds behind him. Steve Chapman riding well, pretty much the same time as Steve O'Keefe. Richard Sudden, Steve Orchard coming in there, the good ride. Jeff Saywell, to say Hope Buke and Lee Campbell, who was sick, pulling the pin after about 2 laps. So, thanks Wellington Masters Cycling Club, good fun race. And I got Rider of the Day along with someone else down here. Joint Riders of the Day, Marg Van Ensel. I think she broke away as well, by the looks of it. Look at that, she was 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes ahead of the next person in D grade and E grade. So that was great, good for you, Marge. So, let's just look through the other grades results. In B grade, Derek Roberts. Looks like he won with a 6 seconds from Michael Delahunty, who obviously was sprinting out for second place with Peter James in third. C grade was 3 laps as well, which is pretty strong for C grade. Good for you guys. Looks like, again, Andrew Eels, 2 hours 41.21, taking it about 10 seconds ahead of Dave Delabarca, who had another few seconds on third place, Phil Sporer. You can kind of see from those results there was some little rollers just in the last 2 kilometres or so, and I think those little time gaps are from where people were honking up those and just opening it up a little bit, which was smart. It seemed to work out. Grade D, 2 laps, 60 k's, Malcolm Standrel sprinting with Derek Locke, John Badich. It looks in D grade like what happened is they just all stayed together. Everyone was on a similar level, and Malcolm Standrel, Derek Locke, John Bowditch, Tony Evans, John Page, Alan Kosciuszko, all sprinting it out. Only a couple of seconds separating all those guys. So congratulations for being first across the line, Malcolm. In E grade, the aforementioned Marge Van Enselm, breaking away from John Holloway in second, Alice Goodyear in third. It's pretty inspiring seeing some of those older people riding bikes like savages. I'm swiftly becoming one of those older people, and it does get harder, actually. It does get harder, so hats off. So what did I learn? Well, it's pretty simple, really. Let me have a look at my notes here. I think what it is I learned from the week before to remember not to be lazy and remember to write down and know the course features, I guess is what it is. In my case, know where the finish line is. That's always a plus. But know the course features and where they are, and know when you are going to make your moves. So you should have tactically in your mind, talked to your coach, decided what your strengths and weaknesses are and aren't on the course, what that means for how you're going to drop your bombs on the day. You know, are you going to be a high watts per kilo rider for 3 minutes and try to attack from the bottom of millers? Are you going to try to be flat time trialist and break away somewhere critical on the course? Are you going to try to be like a short power sprint guy, go for a sprint at the end of a bunch? Are you going to try be a 1 minute power guy, watts per kilo, and go on the rollers? You got to plan it out and know. So sort of for me become one of those things where doubling down on my strengths kind of means finding somewhere on a course where I can, you know, try to make a gap and try to make it stick. And for me, that was always going to be probably about that northern corner where the wind direction changes and the road conditions change a lot, and to try to break things up there. And that worked pretty well. Again, it didn't go perfectly, and maybe the other learning thing to come out of is be brave and confident. And the good thing about doing that is that it doesn't always work. But if you're brave and confident, well, at least you've had a go and you've had some fun racing your bike. You know, after so many races where you just sit in the bunch and get sprinted, and you probably did have the facility to attack somewhere on the course even when you didn't know it, that gets really old after a while. And if you can know your strengths, try to play them out, and then whether it works or it doesn't, well, you've at least had a go, and you're almost certainly not going to get dropped from the bunch if you come back to the bunch. So, you know, I would say know what your strengths and weaknesses are and have a go from it. So we definitely, it's not always going to work. And I tell you what, if that bunch had brought me back, or if I, you know, things hadn't gone right, I'll come back to the bunch. I'll be perfectly happy with that. It's had a go. So this week, number 3, what grinds my gears? What grinds my gears is people complaining about races. There was a little bit of talk on the Intertube during the weekend because Calder Stewart Wilson was cancelled because of snow. I understand. I don't know. I wasn't going to it, but I gather because of snow somewhere on the course. And so what they did was they cancelled it, and because it's not safe, and they put on a different race. And from the discussion I could see from a distance was a number of people chiming in, essentially saying that the race that they did put on should have been longer, and complaining about the course, all this and that. And look, I mean, all of these things, it's like anything, none of these things are wrong. I mean, it's obviously no one's saying that they shouldn't have a safe race, and also no one's saying that you shouldn't ideally put on races that are enjoyable and long enough for the caliber of riders that had some people travelled, you know, a wee way to go there. But here's the thing that maybe I think was missing was putting on races is a gargantuan pain in the ass in several ways. It's very rewarding, but it's also can be a PITA. And so I speak from a little bit of experience because I have done a fair amount of this myself. For a few years I organised races with a local mountain bike club, and we have it infinitely easier off-road because you don't have any traffic management concerns. Well, actually that's not entirely true. You do have some, because sometimes you're operating a base near a road and you have to have management there, or you're crossing a road or something like that. But in general, it's probably 80% easier than organising a road race, which of course is on the road. And with all of the traffic management requirements that have come in from NZTA, I think government mandated traffic control requirements over the last, 3 to 5 years, having the properly legally acceptable traffic management in place is a big deal. Now, it's not just traffic management. That's one big factor that sometimes people aren't aware of. The other factor is just having people who, especially with club races, like anything, prepared to put up their hand, give up their day, or the majority of it, when you've got other things that you might want to be doing, to put on a race. It can be really rewarding, and that's why people do it, but it really takes away a little bit of that reward when people complain for any reason, and it can be really small, and it just drives you insane to the point where you think, the utility to me of putting on this race is this much, and I've got my fingers about 1 centimetre apart, and that's only small, so it's very easily undermined as soon as anyone says anything negative about your event. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't be able to make constructive comments, but you've got to understand that for people who organise these events, a lot of the time it doesn't take much for you to say, okay, you know what, I don't need this. I'll go and do something else with my life today because it's not up to your standard, which is fine. But that's it. You won't have a race then. And that happens a lot with one of the local clubs, which will remain nameless here. It's pretty obvious, judging from the lack of racing that they have put on this spring, that probably a combination of the above things has meant there isn't any races that they're putting on. Traffic management's a hassle. I don't know if rider input has been hassle what it is, and there's always very few people willing to put up their hand to help compared to the number of people who are willing to chip in with sometimes their comments that are probably entirely intended to be constructive, but it's like they say, with boxers, you shouldn't be too critical until you've been in the ring. And if you're someone who's organised races and you've been in the ring and you've pulled on the gloves, then you probably have a right to be a little more critical or have a little bit more of a hand in saying how things should or shouldn't be done than if you're someone who hasn't. I can say that it's been sometimes pretty hard to hear people wanting to chip in with their well-intentioned little words, but when push comes to shove and you actually need them to turn up and do their marshalling or do their job for the club or come along to the AGM, suddenly they've all got other better things to do. And I realise that's human nature. But all I'm saying is it's a very small utility often to putting on these races, especially if it's a club race. Don't undermine that tiny utility with what could be uninformed yet well-meaning comments. And because it could mean, like it has meant here, that there's a lot less races for everyone to do, and then you won't have anything to complain about or talk about. So that's what grinds my gears. About, for every well-meaning criticism you make, why don't you make 10, do 10 things for that club, or 5 things even, that are, involve you doing some work. How about that? And then you'll have a leg to stand on when it comes time to say these things. And hey, look, the other good thing is, man, if you probably do have some good ideas. It's entirely possible you do. So go and make them happen. Get off the couch, go and do it. Go to the AGM, put your hand up, do a job, and boom, get in the ring, do it. You may very well have some good ideas, so go and do it. It's entirely possible. It may be great. All your ideas might be really good. Okay, go and do them. Organise a race. Just go and do it. All right, so guys, my guess. All right, number 3. Next week, we are starting on the bigger races, North Island Team Series 1. Sponsored by Trust House. And as I said, this week was a curtain raiser for that course because it was the same. Now I talked about these races a little bit in the past. Number 1 is the most important really because it sets the tone for the rest of the series. Get some points on the board or not. So I thought I'd go through teams and people to watch. Looks like there's been a flurry of entries in the last week or so, which is nice to see. So looking at Masters 1, we have 3 grades. You've got the Open / Pro. You've got Master 1 and you've got Master 2. Master 1, 35 to 45, I think it is. Master 2, 45 and over. But even despite the fact that there's a smaller age range, Master 1 has quite a few teams, so it's good. Good competition. Now I notice we've had our new jersey picture uploaded. If you want to see what our 2018 kit for FitLab is going to look like, you can go to the teams page on cyclingseriesnz.co.nz. At Master 1, look at the new kit. We take delivery of that this Thursday. Should be wearing that on the start line. It looks pretty neat. It's made by Nino Design. A FitLab rider, Grayson Napier, owns that company and has done a great job helping us out in the new kit. I'll be lining up in FitLab. Andrew Jemison, who I work with, and whose watts per kilo has frankly gone through the roof in the last couple of weeks. We've been kind of texting each other with our data every week from our testing, and we're kind of, he's much better than last year, so he'll be much more of a weapon. Chris Sutherland, Ben Copsey, Scott McDonnell, Lee Campbell, and Urian Gertz. Most of those people lining up for most of the races, a couple here and there that can't. I will be wanting to do well for our team. Okay, scrolling down, we've got Locals Rivet Racing, with Tararua Builders, Roadworks, local bike shop sponsoring this team for every year, and contains some pretty dangerous riders. Brendan McGrath is probably one of the top riders in this grade, if not the top. Also have Paul Rawlinson, excellent climber Colin Kennedy, and John Randall, excellent TTS. So that will be a very big firepower team. We have Cycle Nation. We'll have La Rula Mo. I don't know what that is. But good for you. Looks like they've got a good team. We have Zeal Interiors. Zeal Interiors looks like a relatively late entry, bringing along some good riders, including Stephen and Brendan Sheldrake. Craig Lawn. I don't know he was under 45. He must be. Some good riders to watch. Thomas Goldborg, excellent climber, and that team as well. So Masters 1 is looking forward for quite a big showdown. Masters 2, Total Home Theatre, picking some good riders. The aforementioned Jonathan Leonard included. Velo Ronnie's Vittoria. We have picking Gary Anderson. Gary probably one of the top riders in this grade. Ex-New Zealand representative at the Olympics or Commonwealth Games, or both, I believe. Complete savage in a sprint. Optimal performance. We got Stephen R2 O'Keefe, back from the dead and going good. Also Ollie Ferry in there, local rider, who is riding well. Tararua Builders entering a team in Master 2. Team Ashurst. Kiwi Velo. Tim Renner. I think he's recovering from surgery, but I think if he does come back for some late races, will be good. Team Capity. Jeremy Venel coaching Speedworks. PMP Masters. Two good climbers in that team, John Curran and Rob Kilvington for the Helio races. And Lone Star Palmy entering the team. Let's look at the open grade. Not so many teams listed yet. Hopefully that will change this week. If not, there's going to be a small but fiery grade. We've got CCN Factory Racing Team. Late entry to that. My man Toby Fuller. Bit of a dark horse. We've got Bike Box Rentals. Another dark horse in that team, Matt Frecklington. I know Matt, ex-mountain biker, and he has a massive engine. If he's able to get that horsepower through his drivetrain to the wheels, I know he'll appreciate that. As a connoisseur, that metaphor as a connoisseur of all things turbocharged, Matt will be a savage to be in a breakaway with. Wheel Works, putting in another team there. Some really good riders going well on that team. Dave Weaver, last year's grade winner, will be looking to back up. Fight and Breedcraft Cottage Lane. A big dog in this is David Rowlands, coming back from the Worlds in Albi. I think he's second place in his age grade. Will be very strong. Anthony Norder's looking fast. Dan Wolaszewski, who I had some good racing with at the Capity Winter Series. And that team, that will be very strong and very experienced team. And the last team I can see entered so far, L&M Group, Ryco, New Zealand, with Brent Backhouse, who may be becoming grey of hair, as we all are. Calm down, Becky. But is still a massive savage. Excellent climber Luke McDermott in there. Probably one of their best riders, Ben Barry, who has been spending some time overseas racing this year. We'll be looking to do something everywhere. He's a good rider all around. So that's the teams. That's kind of my picks. And I'm looking forward to it. Round 1 needs to go well, I think. Go to the Trust House North Island Team Series page. Check out the new FitLab kit. We will be opening up the FitLab web shop for orders on this kit in the next couple of weeks. We'll put some information out about that. And if you'd like to see what the kit looks like or feels like, you know, come and give me a back rub, and you can feel the threads, or look from a distance, you know, whatever works for you. All right, guys. As always, Fast You Falls brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomax, and Capital Cycles. If you'd like a training plan from me, go to fitlab.co.nz. You can email me, steve@fitlab.co.nz. I'll see you on the weekend. See you guys. Thanks for watching / listening to Fast You Fall, brought to you by FitLab, Capital Cycles, Tailwind Nutrition, and Biomaxa. If you'd like to get in touch for a coaching program or testing, give me a hold of me, steve@fitlab.co.nz. Go to fitlab.co.nz. Talk soon, guys.